Well, good morning, Baton Rouge and San Diego. Here we are for another Chit Chat live with Dima and Rob. Dima, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm sorry I missed out on our plans this morning.
That's okay. We'll do them again on
Wednesday. Have to do it again, right?
So for anyone who wants to know our plans is to wear the shirt from the Red Stick Together to help with the fundraising in Baton Rouge. But I'll wear it again on Wednesday.
Love that. Let's do that. We're gonna have to wash. Sorry, I think mine is in the wash. So, well, mine's blue. The red's looking really sharp this morning, and I really like the way it looks on that background again. So I do have to warn you, I do have one studio audience member up here with me right now. So there's still a potential.
Okay, let's get your studio audience and also our guests for today.
That's right. So today we have a very special guest. This is Chris Cassagne of the LED, Louisiana Economic Development. And here we go. Chris, good morning, man. Good to see you.
Good morning and happy Monday. Pleasure to be with you all.
Happy Monday to you, man. Now, look, your entire state agency has been busy. We know today's an important day for Louisiana. I know we have a lot of announcements and information coming our way. Do you want to kind of give us a high level of what we should probably expect to talk about or hear the buzz?
Absolutely. I'm like I said, I'm happy to be here. Happy to give just a high level overview of what I do at LED and where we stand from a department standpoint right now. I will say before we get started that I thought I had been on all of the different platforms before. I'd been on the WebEx and the Google Chats and the Zooms and the GoToMeetings, but I've never been on, what is this one, StreamYard? I've never been on that one before, so hopefully I can hit all of them. But so my name again is Chris Cassagne. I'm the Assistant Director of the Small Business Services Division at Louisiana Economic Development. You know, we have many divisions. We're the state agency for economic development. If anybody out there is not familiar with our department, we have many different divisions. We're involved with marketing and attraction to get industry to open up business in Louisiana. We have an incentives division. We have an expansion and retention group. Like I mentioned, my division at LED is the Small Business Services Division. So we work with, obviously, small businesses. My role in particular as assistant director, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on, I believe, is to basically communicate and launch programming and resources designed to accelerate the growth of what we call second stage businesses. And I've been involved with you, Rob, and IT Inspired over a number of years. You've leveraged many of those programs. So thank you for that. And I know and I hope they've been impactful. So that being said, from a high level kind of just department standpoint, you know, things have changed rapidly given the COVID-19 situation, but I am happy to report that all of our programming at LED, minus and I know, Rob, we were looking forward to going to the Spotlight event last year, the large gatherings, we can't do that, but from a technical and managerial assistance standpoint, all of our programming at the department, if it was not delivered virtually previously, we've transitioned it to a remote delivery. So all of our programming continues, and that's a great thing. It's keeping us busy. On top of that, we are, there's maybe a dozen or so folks that are rotating and going into the office on an as-needed basis. Invoices need to be processed. Business has to go on, but the vast majority of us, myself included, are working remote. So we're having daily internal calls within the department, so everybody's on the same page, similar to a huddle call that I know many businesses are doing. We are having weekly calls with the Small Business Development Centers, which is a great resource for folks to leverage at this point in time. And they're full force working remotely as well as we're having weekly calls with the Small Business Administration, which I know everybody out there is very familiar with them. We've got our next call. I wish it would have been today, but it's because today's a big day, but 10 a.m. tomorrow is our next weekly call. So we'll get an update on where everything stands weekly from them. In addition to that, we are collaborating with a number of key stakeholders. As I mentioned earlier, I've been on a number of webinars when you talk about our regional economic development organizations, organizations like GNO Inc., the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, LABI, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Businesses in New Orleans. These organizations are putting out great information, having webinars, doing daily bulletins, a lot of good information out there, and we're collaborating with them in addition to the CPAs Association and a number of other organizations in order to continue collaborating.
You're so very involved, Chris, not just with what LED does, but now it's so easy to see how tightly integrated you are and the agency is into what small businesses need, the programs that help develop things around them and through them. And I'm sure you guys have been busy just in crisis mode trying to get this information. You have a website, opportunitylouisiana.com/COVID-19, that is extremely resourceful. It has everything you would possibly need right there in front of you and all the links for trusted information.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I would encourage folks to go to that website, opportunitylouisiana.com. And we've got a special page, it's /COVID-19 for all of the resources related to that. You know, that was one of the first things that we did when all of this started to unfold, was to put that page up on our website, and we're updating it regularly with pertinent information. In addition to that, and you'll see that on the website, we also launched a business hotline a few weeks after the pandemic really hit Louisiana the hardest, and you started seeing some of these businesses kind of scramble around and try to determine what were going to be the next steps and what they needed to do at this point in time. So we launched, I think it's, let's see, so I get this correctly, ledbiz@la.gov is an email address that you can reach out to, and the number for the hotline is 833-457-0531. So we have both that phone number and email address, and I can tell you that, you know, things have kind of quieted down, for lack of better words. When we first launched that hotline, that was at the same time that the CISA guidelines were coming out for essential versus non-essential. The Triple P had just started coming out, the Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL loans. We were waiting for Louisiana to get on the list so folks could start applying for that. There's a whole lot of things going on in addition to the stay-at-home order that folks were trying to navigate. We were handling, I think, upwards of 500 phone calls and emails a day when we first launched that. I am happy to report and thankful, because I was manning some of those phone calls myself, that it's down to about maybe 30, 50 phone calls a day. So that's definitely good from a bandwidth standpoint. So that was one of the first things that we did. Shortly thereafter, we also launched, and I would encourage folks to look into this, it's on that page, our Loan Portfolio Guarantee Program, LPGP for shorthand. That's our state loan program related to COVID-19. So if you have less than 100 employees and are not in one of the specifically excluded categories, like a nonprofit organization or a gambling institution and those sorts of things, almost all small businesses, if you have less than 100 employees, are going to qualify for that program. You have to contact one of the participating banks. But basically, that program, we're providing a guarantee to the banks and a pool of money so that they feel more comfortable with issuing loans to small businesses that have been affected of up to $100,000. And there's no interest or payments for 6 months, terms of 1 to 5 years, and interest rates not to exceed 3.5%. Certainly, if the banks want to go lower than that, they are able to do that, but the rates cannot exceed 3.5%. So I would encourage everybody to look into our state loan program. I will say that in our secretary reported on this last week, it's gotten off to a little bit slower start than what we would like to see. The banks are they're inundated right now with staffing shortages and high volumes and all of these loan programs that are out there at the federal level as well as the state level. So as to be expected, they've got a lot on their hands, but I would encourage folks to look into that program.
Agreed. And while you were talking, we had a chance to kind of bring up the website a little bit for the, the Louisiana Loan guarantee
portfolio guarantee program. Right.
And that website is ledbizloan.com. ledbizloan.com. And I got to tell you, I've seen that original resource that if your business was impacted website, the COVID-19 website that y'all set up for the assistance, like I've seen that grow each day. I mean, of course, you have most of the information there now, but the first few weeks I saw that page just, it was getting taller, longer, and it's a huge resource. It has everything you'd possibly need there. So, and that's kind of hard to maintain too, Chris. So the work that y'all are doing there is definitely noticeable.
Yeah, and I want to thank our marketing department for updating that regularly and making it very user friendly. And that's important to, and that's one of the things that I'll note later on is that there's a whole lot of information out there right now, and things are changing so rapidly. It's good to have a place where the links that you're clicking on are credible, they're verified, they're accurate. That way you're not getting and spreading misinformation out there, because that was a big issue that we had early on. I'll also say from a department standpoint that another thing that we're tracking and we're involved in is the Resilient Louisiana Commission. Our Secretary of Louisiana Economic Development, Secretary Don Pearson, he's co-chairing that commission that launched and had their first meeting last week. Basically, that commission in the legislature has a similar commission, and we're going to avoid overlap and focusing on the same things. But the Louisiana Resilient Commission that Governor John Bel Edwards created and our Secretary of LED co-chairs is basically going to be focused on looking at the economy amid the COVID-19 pandemic and making specific recommendations in the coming months to getting our economy back started in a resilient fashion, as the name alludes to. There's going to be about 15 subcommittees developed underneath that commission focused on specific critical sectors. When you talk about retail, when you talk about hospitality and restaurants and manufacturing and energy and all of those important subsectors that are going to have different needs and different mechanisms and recommendations that are going to come out of that commission for really getting, not just getting back to where we were before, but coming back even better than ever.
Wow, that's amazing. So we know that there's a big announcement that's going to happen later today with a governor, with our governor. And so what do you think we can expect from that announcement? And give us some information in addition to what you just shared about restarting the businesses moving forward.
Yeah, I think, tune in to that press conference for sure. I think it's anybody's guess what exactly is going to come out of that and how much information actually is going to be released today. Hopefully more than less, but, we're still tracking that the federal guidance from the White House and the 14-day decline before you really kick into phase one. And he did state, our governor, that we're not going to, while we're following those guidelines closely, we may not follow them to a T. So I think, what I'd like to say about that is a couple of things. One, today's a big day with the PPP and the EIDL loans coming back online. I did check the SBA's website right before we hopped on this because it was supposed to go back live. You apply for the EIDL directly through the SBA.gov website. That page was not yet up where you could actually submit the application, unfortunately, yet. But the PPP is done through the banks. As far as for the governor in that announcement today, in which he has said additional guidance is supposed to come out today on what the reopening may look like since the stay-at-home order expires on this Friday, May 1st. I think we just need to listen to the governor today. You've seen a couple of tidbits of information come out there and what things may look like. But a lot of that is speculation. I do think it's important for us right now to manage expectations and understand that this is, look, in all the businesses that I've talked to and all the government officials, this is a long-term thing. This is not a short-term thing. We're gonna get back into this phase by phase. Masks may be a new normal. You talk about PPE and what that's going to look like for companies that are opening up and whether or not they're interacting with customers or not, and keeping social distancing guidelines in effect, encouraging telework. All of those different things are being floated around. But I think we just need to wait for the new proclamation and hear what the governor has to say and understand that what is put out today is not going to be the final guidance. This is going to be an ongoing fluid type situation where more and more information is going to come out. I think what we're trying to avoid is doing a one size fits all and opening everything back up and doing things incorrectly to where then you need to shut back down or ratchet back some of the guidelines that are put out there. So we're trying to do this thing right. And I think we need to tune into the governor this afternoon to see exactly what that initial guidance looks like.
Well said. We should be patient and listen for the information coming our way. You know, it's tough because we want to hear that right now, right? We want to have some direction right now, not, you know, noon today or 3 today. We want to know what to do with the next 5 hours of our life, right? Because those go by very fluidly. But I think there's some wisdom there too, Chris. Let's just wait and see. Let's hear it from our leaders first, you know, and then react. I think there's a lot of wisdom there. In terms of, I mean, small business is your thing. This is what you focus on. What kind of advice or just information could you give the business owners out there right now that might, I mean, I know we didn't talk about this, Chris. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but what I'm trying to get at is, you know, what advice would Chris Cassagne give those small businesses that we've talked about before and those programs that LED runs, that might be going to your website, the COVID-19 website, for assistance? What would you say, for the small businesses out there today?
Well, first of all, I would say that my heart goes out to each and every one of you. I've probably spoken, and I mentioned that my primary responsibility in the bulk of my interaction with the business community has been those 450 companies that are part of the LED Growth Network and sharing information with them very frequently. But I would, you know, I've talked with probably, I don't know, upwards of 1,000 plus companies in just the past, 5-6 weeks. And I've heard, as you could expect, the good, the bad, the ugly, the thankful, the just downright pissed off. I've heard a whole lot. So I would say to them, first of all, my heart goes out to you. You folks are the backbone of the Louisiana and the U.S. economy. So we thank you for that. And I understand that things are difficult right now. Take some sort of comfort in knowing that, while you're in the situation that you are, there's other folks in that exact same situation. I haven't heard anything, that I haven't heard several other times following that. So we're all in this together. But my heart certainly does go out with you. A couple of bits of just generic type advice that I would give, and I mentioned this earlier, is one, be careful where you're getting your information from. There's, especially when this thing first started, there was a whole lot of misinformation going out there. When you talk about the cyber attacks and the phishing email, some of them look really, really credible. And it's unfortunate that there's individuals and groups out there that are trying to take advantage of an already tough situation, and we'd hate to see things get compounded when you're going through hardships and be the victim of some kind of phishing attack or something like that where you lose your personal information. So be careful where you get your information from, one. The second bit that I would say is relationships are very important right now. Talk to those professionals, and look, you've all heard the rumors of this one getting in line before that one, and the way that the banks are handling things. And look, there's a lot of folks doing a lot of great work, and I don't envy one bit the workload that our lending institutions are carrying on their shoulders right now. But those relationships are important. Your CPAs are important. Your lawyers are important. Your bankers are important. So remember, develop those relationships. They've never been more important than what they are right now. The other bit, speaking of lending institutions and loans and those sorts of things, the other bit of advice, if you want to call it that I would throw out there is, if you've been through a disaster before, if you've been watching the news, just in general, you've probably heard of this term, duplicity of benefits, duplication of benefits. When you talk about loan interactions and with folks leveraging all of these different resources and the EIDL loan and the triple P loan, and even when you talk about the state loan program, you cannot duplicate benefits. And I've heard many different strategies from different professionals being thrown out, about, hey, look, use triple P for just payroll costs and use EIDL for everything else, and make sure that if you're doing the state's loan program, you're not using it for any of the other things that you're using the loan on. So I would say that be careful of duplication of benefits. And I'm not a loan officer and I'm not a CPA, but just be careful, because the decisions that you're making today and tomorrow can really come back and get you in a bind if you're not careful, both legally and financially later on down the line. And then the other bit that I would say is like we mentioned before, go to LED's website, stay plugged in. This thing is fluid. This thing is changing so fast. And, we made jokes early on, and it slowed down just a little bit, but it's still a very fluid situation. But we joked early on, but it really was true that when this stuff was first coming out, we were working and we extended our hours to about 8 p.m. at night, but, we were on the horn all of the time. But the information that you got at 8 or 10 o'clock one night, it was different at 6, 7 o'clock the next morning. I mean, it became standard operating procedure. Rob, you saw this because I was communicating with you as well, to date and timestamp every bit of information that we were putting out as accurate and verified as of this day and time. So don't think that an email that you found in your inbox and you just got around to from last week, that information is no longer valid at this point in time. So be careful of not only where you're getting your information from, but when that information was posted and when it was updated.
That's it right there. And that goes back to the wisdom we were talking about before. I mean, first of all, you have to have a trusted, credible source to rely on. And then that information needs to be timely. And we respect the leaders that are disseminating that information, and we're trusting. There's a trust relationship there that we've built up to think that, what we're being displayed and demonstrated is correct. And that goes for security and IT, phishing attempts. That goes for information right now, because it's so dynamic and fluid for our business environment. So, and Dima, I don't want to go ahead. I see you.
I want to add something. So, Chris, just like you said, it has been so overwhelming for your team to keep up with everything and keep us updated and have the website updated. It has been extremely overwhelming for us, the business owners, as well, with a lot of information being changed and going from one place to another. So, of course, we're so thankful you have it in one place, but also having a lot of information in one place is extremely overwhelming. So that's one. The other thing I want to mention is you talked earlier that this recovery is long term. So it's not something where we can expect that our state is going to open and reopen, and then it's not going to be like this. So it's a long-term thing. And so what are you doing, you and your team, to help set the expectations for the business owners where, yes, we're going to reopen, but at the same time, we're not going to see what we had over the summer. It may take a year or two or longer.
Yeah, I think it's like you said earlier, Rob, patience is a virtue. We need to be patient. We need to stay plugged in and monitor the things that are coming out. All of these organizations that are trusted sources of information, LED included, develop those relationships, stay plugged in, talk to those folks periodically, and understand that it's going to take some time. We're going to get back to not only normal, but better than normal, and be in better shape than what we were before. And all of these things you have to monitor, even when you talk about legislatively, and when you talk about new laws that are being passed, by every day we had this or have this ongoing regular session right now that who knows if they're going to get back on May 1st or not. I think that may be part of the governor's remarks, but we've got an ongoing regular session that needs to end by June 1st. We've got a budget that needs to be passed. So with every growing day in the short term that they're going to have in the regular session, we're hearing rumors of at least 2 special sessions on the horizon. The first that'll probably happen shortly after the regular session in order to address healthcare and budgetary type items, and then and we're hearing a second, and this is being especially important for the business community, that and this may happen sometime in the fall. Who really knows? It's just speculation at this point. But a second special session later on that would carry some kind of economic development related banner. And that's going to be especially important to the businesses. Look, these things are just getting ramped up. I talked about the Resilient Louisiana Commission. The legislature's got their own commission going. A number of organizations are involved in surveys and doing certain things to gather feedback and recommendations from the business community themselves. So we're just in the beginning stages of this, but we'll come back, and we'll come back stronger than ever. It's just going to take a minute.
I totally agree. We're getting close to the time frame of when we should probably stop, but I do want to bring to light a lot of the positive things. I know we're talking about some really stressful stuff, right? But there's so many great things that LED does, the programs, just the development of people, of their businesses, and the industry around them. I can tell you from firsthand experience, because I feel like I've been through, I feel like I put Chris through the test here, because if there's something new coming out, I'm always like, me. And so I've been through about 5, I think, at least. If I start counting, it might be more. But, quite a few programs, and economic gardening, the CEO roundtables, small and emerging business development roundtables. There's so much and that you guys are capable of delivering. I can tell you firsthand that my business and my team would not be as resilient today without those programs, without the networking that was created during those times, without meeting those special people, those resources that I was able to tap into. Honestly, the awareness of PPP and how to apply and where to go to get it. Here's a lender that's accepting applications. If it wasn't for my Goldman Sachs small business, 10,000 small businesses program, I don't know that any of that would have been possible for myself, because I'm just a normal business owner, and trying to focus on my lane and my thing. But having those banker relationships, the lawyers, my marketing team is killing it right now. Having all of those relationships and those resources, those outlets for people to execute is important. What LED has done for me is expand my network, expand what's available to me, and bring exposure and awareness to the great things that our state has to offer. Can you give us just a few good things? And I got to throw this up here, okay? Jackie Russo, Goldman Sachs. That's my Goldman Sachs contact right there. She put me in touch with a banker. I mean, if it wasn't for Jackie, a lot of stuff in our class wouldn't have happened. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that thank you, Chris. Maybe this is all wrapped up into a long, rambling, run-on sentence, but it's a thank you. Because for what you and the LED provide, give small businesses and business owners the ability to thrive and survive through this. So can you talk just briefly about some of those programs and lay them down, all the ones I'm a fan of?
Yeah, couple things, and just to echo your comments, we've heard success story or feel good story after feel good story of the breweries making hand sanitizer and manufacturers providing microchips to get them and increase the capacity of the ventilators, and a lot of these directly from LED Growth Network companies, which hello Jackie, she is one of those companies. I have a phone call with her coming up this afternoon for one of those strategic research programs that you mentioned. But a couple things. One, I will say that we're very strong partners with that Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program at Delgado. David Payton and those folks do absolutely fantastic work. I was on a webinar with him just last week, providing LED updates on several different items. We talk often about there's not one organization, LED included, Goldman Sachs included, that does everything for everybody. It takes collaboration, it takes partnerships, it takes a number of organizations, and we're all involved in different things. I would say one, I don't have enough time to run through all of our programs just in the small business services division. We could do a whole nother chit chat session or two on all of those different programs, maybe just even the ones that you've leveraged, but they can all be found on our website at that opportunitylouisiana.com. So go on there, look through the programs. If you'd like, an individual consult, for lack of better words, or help navigating which program might be best for you at this particular point in time, give me a call. My cell phone number is 504-715-6091. I can also be reached at email, christopher.casagne@la.gov. I'm happy to help in any kind of way. I will highlight a couple of programs that we've launched specific for the companies that I work with, primarily the LED Growth Network. Rob, you're involved in one of these. We had 4 virtual COVID-19 CEO roundtable sessions last week, and I'll tell you that my biggest takeaway across, it's for about 60 companies, about 15 companies in each table. My biggest takeaway in being on each and every one of those meetings is that it's a lot of different industries involved in this. This is a long-term thing, but it's, it was therapeutic and very nice for those companies to hear the stories, hear what other folks are doing, share best practices, and understand that while we're all in different industries, we're also all in this together as well. So that's one of the programs that I'm very proud of launching, and we did that very quickly. In addition to, we've got another series of virtual workshops coming up next week that's titled Leading Through Challenging Times, because we know leadership is I don't want to say there's a right way and a wrong way to do it right now, but it's a tough thing to navigate for CEOs that have X number of staff at their companies. So we're going to try to put on some virtual workshops, and we have a gentleman with the Edward Lowe Foundation. I know you know him, Dino, that's a PhD, and he's going to kind of walk us through some things related to the brain and neuroscience and how those things work. That way folks can avoid knee-jerk reactions and doing the wrong things given the situation that we're in. So we're very proud of launching those 2 programs specific to COVID-19 in very short order.
Wow. Amazing. Wow.
It happened fast. And like I said, I got that email I saw, and it said that Chris Cassagne had sent this email 2 minutes ago. And I was like, okay, sign me up. This is still fresh. It's not for me. So, and
when I look back, it's been just less than 50 days, right? I need to calculate it. Like all of this, all the new initiatives and the loans and what is that?
Week 7. I believe this is week 7.
Can you imagine like doing all of this? It does feel longer though. It feels much longer because so much has been happening every single day. But the busiest 7 weeks ever.
My dog's 10th birthday was this past Friday, and we had a filet celebration. We grilled some filets, and I didn't marinate hers, but she got to eat hers. That feels like it was about a month ago already, and that was just over this past weekend. So I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. Well, happy birthday to Puppers over there.
Thank you, Chris, and your team for everything that you're doing. It's absolutely amazing, and it's very much needed. So I know all of us, we need it, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yep, we appreciate it. And let's just go ahead and sign off. I've got my daughter with her ring pop. It's that kind of morning. So look, Chris, I know you're at the home office. And I know Dima's away, but I do feel connected. I feel more connected this morning having talked to you all. And just thanks for being on the show, Chris. You know I'm a huge fan of you. You know I love everything that you do for our community, our small business, and huge fan of LED, BRAC, and Goldman Sachs, and all those other entities you named. And it's right. There's a lot of integration there, a lot of synergy, and it wouldn't happen without teamwork and leadership. So thank you for being on the front end of that. I think that's it for now. We've gone a little bit over, but what a great show. Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And I'll try to comment on the post later with the information that you included. I know you included your how to reach out to you, some of the websites, and any of that information. We want to share those resources. So thank you. Everybody have a great day. And let's look for some more information from our leaders this afternoon.
Goodbye.
Good chatting with y'all.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.